This is Tara Reimer from Cloud9 Ranch, and we'd like to help you understand a little bit more about our equine-assisted psychotherapy and our equine-assisted learning programs. So when we do these types of things, generally we have an equine specialist and then a mental health professional as well as the horse. And so here today is Turbo, and we also have Gabby. And Gabby is here to tell us a little bit about how the session looked like firsthand for her. So go ahead, Gabby.
My session that I had here at Cloud9 started out much like this in the arena here, together with the horse. And the horse just we were just getting to know each other, and he wandered and I wandered, and I tried to approach the horse and get to know him. But as the time went by, he actually started to become restless, and it was really interesting to me as I was observing, because he was actually reflecting quite accurately how I had been feeling on the inside over probably the last couple of years, which was trapped and anxious, and yeah, so as that happened, I felt perfectly safe throughout the whole thing. So then Tara and I engaged a little bit, and she guided me through questions that actually showed me how to, that explained how the horse might be feeling at that moment. And to me it looked like the horse obviously felt trapped just like I did. And so we engaged in how to relax the horse. And what we did then was we took a tarp and we just started wrestling it, and it piqued the horse's interest. And so as Tara and I were talking about how to problem solve and work through that, we kept wrestling the tarp, and the horse started to become curious, and he came over to us, which was really interesting to me because I didn't think the tarp would work. But that was enlightening to me because it just told me not to rule out, to try different things that I wouldn't normally do to problem solve in my own life, in my situation. So in my situation, I had been dealing with disappointments, and they were surfacing as anger. And so as the horse was being restless prior to the tarp exercise, then got a little distracted here, but that's okay. Yeah, so the horse was actually representing how I was feeling on the inside, my energy. So as the horse approached, we actually laid out the tarp on the ground to try and get the horse to come across the tarp towards me. As the horse approached, as Tara and I were talking, then here, I'll come around. Then I got excited, and the horse cued into that, and then he backed off, and I was just like, oh, well, that's interesting. So Tara explained a little bit of what was going on, and what it showed to me was the horse felt my expectations rise. And what I've learned over the months since that session is expectations, and even prior to that, is expectations often end in disappointment. So so that was interesting to me. And then as I relaxed a little bit more and talked things out, the horse actually stepped onto the tarp. I didn't quite get the horse to come all the way, but that was okay. It was already quite an impacting experience for me. So then, as we proceeded through the rest of the session, closer towards the end, the horse actually pooped and peed in an interesting pattern around me, almost like he pooped, peed, like fencing me in a little bit, which also represented my energy again. So it was like from anxious to calm, anxious to calm, anxious to calm. And that was something Tara had never seen before. And I thought it was interesting as well. And yeah, so what that did also, it was actually quite powerful to me because it felt very territorial to me too. And when we ended the session, I had actually ended up feeling protected. So I just remember also the horse had come around me and stood beside me towards the end of the session. And one thing Tara told me was, I think it was something along the lines that touch to a horse is like,
Yeah, horses value space like we value touch.
yeah.
Yeah.
So touch is not necessarily something that horses naturally engage in, is how I took that. But one of my love languages is actually touch. And the horse at the end of the session came up beside me and actually bent his nose towards me and nuzzled me a little bit. And that was actually hugely impacting to me. I felt actually protected, and I felt the horse's strength in that moment. And it was actually a very spiritual thing for me. And what I took away from that evening was just into my disappointments and the anger that I had been feeling in relationships that had not turned out how I had expected. It actually put me on a stepping stone towards looking more inspired to hope instead of expectations that end in disappointment. So that's taken me some time to process over the months, and it's just something I think that is just going to take some time for me to keep learning. But it was, I walked away just hugely impacted, and yeah, I would just encourage anyone to participate in that.
Excellent. Thank you so much for sharing with us.
You're welcome.